guess we will get into it. Sorry, I got to bookmark us here. I forgot to do that earlier. We got the quarterback waiver wire. We're going to start with here for week 5. The waiver wire options this week at all positions. I don't know if they necessarily have the high upside potential, but there are some options there. So I picked a good week to be desperate at every position.
Yeah, it's a good week.
So we have 10 here. I kind of divided it into my 5 favorite, and then the second slide I'll show has the second 5 favorites at each position. So we have Sam Darnold, 62% rostership, Andy Dalton, 19%, Justin Fields, 42%, Joe Flacco, 2%, and Geno Smith, 42%. If you're on screen here, you can see the where they rank in some of their stats. I'm not going to go through it. They all have, similar stat lines. We see Sam Darnold and Justin Fields, I guess, are the rushing threats of the group here somehow. But what really jumps out here, like I said, I have a lot of teams where these 5 are going to be my starting quarterbacks this week because even in Scott Fishbowl, I have Anthony Richardson, and I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Oh, I drafted Geno. I'm good. So,
yes.
the Geno ones.
It's incredibly clear watching Geno Smith play that he's the best quarterback of this group, and it's really not that close. But for fantasy production, it's a different ballgame. And like for me, I always chase the upside of Justin Fields. I've been talking about all year. He's finally coming together because they're in situations where the offense is needing him to elevate, and it's partially due to his mistakes. But that's the wild card nature of Justin Fields. And you look at the rushing; it's just clearly above everyone else, which means you don't need the level of passing you do from Sam Darnold or Andy Dalton and Geno Smith and even Joe Flacco, right? So he's the different upside, truly high end, the one that I think consistently can get you. I know Darnold's been basically a top 5 quarterback, but that's just an insane touchdown rate, similar to what Derek Carr was doing earlier this year. It kind of feels like, all right, it's going to fall off at some point, just because otherwise he's going to be NFL MVP if he's passing themselves at this rate. So yeah, for me, Fields is the guy I would happily target. I like Geno a lot. His matchups are good, and then you get San Francisco and a couple other teams where it's a little bit iffier. So yeah, I would be really targeting Darnold and Geno if I'm going for the passing quarterbacks. Then Dalton and Flacco, just because we don't know how long we're getting Flacco for. Anthony Richardson's out an unknown amount of time right now, so he's going to come back. And then Fields is just the different ballpark, whereas the rushing. So yeah, he's the guy for me.
Yeah, of this group here, I think Geno's the safest for me. He's the one where if I have to add him, assuming if you told me I need someone for the rest of the season, I'm most comfortable with Geno. The other 4 seem like they could, not that they could lose their job, but some of them could. Flacco will at some point. Fields could. Dalton maybe. Darnold probably not. But at some point, it feels like the production's going to come crashing down. And it's funny that I heard someone yesterday compare Justin Fields to Blake Bortles in the sense that early in games, he's been so bad that he's putting himself in a position for fantasy where he has to be good because he puts them so far behind the 8 ball that they simply have no choice but to unleash him and make him useful for fantasy. So it's awesome. He's literally Blake Bortlesing his way to QB6 right now, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that last week in particular, the struggles where I put out a tweet after he did that weird fumble sack thing and lost the ball in midfield. It was like, oh gosh, this is Russell Wilson's coming. But I think with Fields, it's a week-to-week basis, right? They can turn to Russell Wilson. So if it does downgrade where he loses 3 or 4 straight, they can go to Russell Wilson. But he's done enough to keep the job. So, I mean, yeah, if you're in a really I would assume that's a dynasty question, and yeah, I'd pick up James in dynasty.
Does Watson have new issues, or are we just talking about him being a general piece of shit?
They think he sucks and they're terrified of him. So
he's actually been decent for fantasy. He sucks in real life, but so does they have no offensive line. They missed four of them last week.
It's brutal. And on top of that, he's missing a lot of throws where they're targeting the wide receivers for drops, but they're really just bad situational late throws by Watson that make it look like. So yeah, he's just not a good quarterback. So it kind of is what it is. So I mean, unless you're in this a start 2 quarterback, I don't really want to hold a backup. I really don't want to do that because if I need production, I'll just take the guys available.
So these are my top 5 at the position. I think I'd rank it. Geno's the number 1. Okay, so if I need someone for long-term, guaranteed long-term, it's Geno. For the rest of season. If you're just asking for this week, I think Geno might be my 3 or 4. I would, for just 1 week, I haven't checked the buys. I know the Lions are on bye. I think the Eagles are on bye. Assuming neither of them are on bye, short term, it's between Fields and Darnold for me. I feel like Fields' rushing upside gives him more, but I don't know. Who would you have if you're just talking short term? You don't worry about them losing their job. Who do you like more, Fields or Darnold? I guess Dalton. Dalton was the third one for me.
Yeah, I think Dalton's like kind of like the deeper league option. I think he's going to be available more just because nobody was focusing on him. For me, it's Fields. I just chase the rushing, and like you look at the stats on the screen right now, and it just shows the difference of the two of them. He's more than tripled his rushing, and it just gives him such a high floor. I get it. I'm just worried about. I know the KLC offense prints money, and Darnold's doing that. At some point, those turnovers are going to kind of flip. Like he should have had a pick 6 last week. The guy dropped it. So he's been a little bit fortunate with the turnovers. So I would say Fields and Darnold for this week, and then like if I'm long term, like I would go Gino.
All right, we'll move on to our second set of slides here for QB. We have Caleb Williams. A lot of these guys, these are like 75% is where I cut it off for rostership. These are all at 70 exactly. It's kind of amazing that I think I seen one of them go up and I didn't update it. It was 71, but they're all give or take 70. Caleb Williams, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert. And this, I guess you would call this the buy low group, maybe, because I think they've all gone down in value. None of them are inside. Like the highest, we have Watson at QB 15, and he feels like he's been terrible. So I think these are more stash guys for me. I don't really want to, like I'm sure in a super flex league, if these guys are available, I'm adding them and playing them next week, but I don't really want to have to start any of these guys next week. Excuse me. It's more like I think I prefer the page 1 starters, but these guys here, it's just stash and hope they turn it around. Before we get into that, if this is a super flex, I assume it's not single QB. Would you draft?
I mean, I'm assuming you have a really good quarterback. If you're going to drop Goff, then yeah, like if you have Goff as your backup and you're chasing running back production, I'm fine doing that. Because in one QB, like I don't, and if I have like a really good quarterback I'm confident in, I don't need a backup quarterback. Like I will pick somebody up. Like we could talk about do the Darnold thing a week or whatever. So as good as Goff's been, sure. Ford for Hunt. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, we'll talk about that with running backs. You could. I don't think I would do that, but
I don't think so either. I know Chubb's supposed to be coming back. They opened the practice window, which means he has 3 weeks. I still don't think he comes back to a full touch share. I probably wouldn't do this.
If I'm wondering if Ford's like the worst option on your roster. Like if he is, then yeah, it's a pretty solid roster. I'm not really into Hunt. I'm a little that Carson Steele had a fumble early in that game. He got benched, basically, is how it went. Then they just trusted it. So I kind of want to see it moving forward, like how much
he's a fullback. So
yeah, so there's that. But like you could tell early on they wanted Steele involved. Like he was involved. He fumbled, and they're like, all right, just hit the bench. We'll just go with Kareem Hunt. He did fine. So I kind of want to see it another week before I bet on Hunt.
This group of quarterbacks here, it seems like there's 3. I know it's tough to say. Maybe 2 options. There are like 2. There's the 4 of them to the right: Stafford, Rodgers, Watson, Herbert. Seem like they're the safe. They're going to be boring, high-end QB2s maybe. Caleb, I think, is the fence swing. Do you have a preference here? I don't think anyone really stands out. Like I can't say I'd most certainly rather have Caleb as my QB2 on my roster, but I guess the upside's there.
Yeah, I think the one guy that stands out of these passers, and like Herbert's kind of that because he's injured. He's not really running much. Even though he has the rushing, I wonder how stable that is this year. It's Stafford because Puka and Kupp are going to come back, and the offense is going to completely change where it elevates that offense. So yeah, I'll take the swing on Caleb. And then you could do Herbert. It's kind of just more of a floor play this year. And then Stafford's the other guy. Like I expect it to kind of upward tick towards the end of the season as his wide receivers come back and the offense looks good again. So yeah, I would go Caleb or Stafford personally.
I actually think Watson's a pretty decent buy low. Like he is QB 15 as bad as he's been.
I know.
And everyone's talking like he's QB 29 on the season. So
yeah,
it can only theoretically get better here. So I don't mind that.
I think people are starting to like wonder if he's going to get benched at some point. So I get it. Yeah, if you're okay with living with the variance of Deshaun Watson, just knowing it's going to be ugly quarterback play and production's going to come, that's fine. I have a hard time seeing a ceiling for Deshaun Watson. It seems like very much a high floor play just because he's such a bad quarterback that it's brutal.